What if nothing in the universe is ever truly lost? It can cause a small existential crisis. It sounds impossible because once something crosses the event horizon, it is gone forever, right? Surprisingly, that is where one of the greatest mysteries in modern physics begin. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, anything that crosses the event horizon continues falling toward the singularity. But quantum physics tells a very different story. It says information can never be destroyed. Every particle, every atom, every detail of reality should somehow survive. So what happens when these two ideas collide? If black holes erase information, quantum physics breaks, but if they do not, where does that information go? Some scientists think it is secretly encoded on the surface of the event horizon. Others believe it is slowly released through Hawking radiation over billions of years. And some of the most radical theories suggest the information may even emerge in another region of space-time. The truth is, nobody knows. Solving the black hole information paradox would not just explain black holes. It could completely rewrite our understanding of space, time, and reality itself. Hold that collision. Do not rush to pick a winner. You are standing at a fight between two of the most successful theories humans have ever built. General relativity describes gravity as geometry, curves in space-time that tell matter how to move. Quantum physics describes the microscopic world, with rules that refuse to let distinctions vanish without a trace. Black holes force those rulebooks into the same room. The paradox is what happens when the room cannot hold both without something giving. Imagine a research vessel outside a real black hole, Sagittarius A star, or any quiet giant with a horizon. Probe falls toward the dark. From the ship, its light redens, slows, fades. From the probe's own clocks, the crossing can happen in finite proper time, and the fall continues. Sami equations. Two stories that refuse to become one comfortable movie. Now ask a sharper question than what the probe sees. Ask whether the universe keeps a complete record of what the probe was. Every detail, every distinction, after the horizon swallows it. That record is what physicists mean by information here, not gossip, not a diary. Microscopic distinctions, which quantum state, which arrangement, which pattern could in principle be told apart from another. If two different books fall in, does the outside universe forever lose the ability to tell which book it was? Classical black hole lore says the outside only remembers mass, electric charge, and spin, a brutal forgetfulness often nicknamed no hair. Quantum lore says forgetfulness that deep should be illegal. No hair is the classical punchline. In the idealized picture, a settled black hole looks the same from outside whether it ate a star, a planet, or a library. As long as the final mass, charge, and spin match, the horizon is a one-way membrane for escape. Details seem to disappear behind a face that only wears 3 numbers. For decades, that punchline felt like a strange but acceptable quirk of gravity. Then, quantum physics sharpened its objection. Distinctions are not supposed to evaporate into perfect sameness. Acceptable quirk becomes unacceptable when you put 2 libraries with different texts on the scale. Sum in mass, Same charge, Same spin. Classically, the final quiet holes can look identical from outside. Quantum mechanics asks how the future state of the universe can then still contain which library it was. If it cannot, nature deleted a distinction. Deletion is the word. Quantum evolution is not supposed to allow for closed systems. The punchline stops being cute. One-way membrane language needs the same sharpness. Nothing climbs out from behind the horizon with a postcard. That does not automatically equal deletion. It equals inaccessibility by direct return mail. Inaccessibility can hide a diary forever inside an eternal hole. Evaporation removes the forever. When the hiding place can disappear, inaccessibility stops being a safe philosophical shelf. That is why Hawking's radiation turned a quirk into a crisis rather than a museum exhibit. Stephen Hawking, in the mid-1970s, lit the fuse that turned quirk into crisis. He argued that black holes are not perfectly black. They radiate. The radiation associated with his name looks, In the simplest treatments, thermal, like heat, with almost no detailed memory of what fell in. If a hole evaporates over absurd timescales and leaves only featureless radiation, where did the information go? If it is gone, quantum evolution that should stay reversible looks broken. If it is not gone, the radiation cannot be as featureless as the simplest story claimed. That is the paradox in one breath. Relativity plus horizons seem to hide or destroy detail. Quantum physics demands the details survive in the final accounting. Hawking radiation makes the fight urgent by suggesting the whole can shrink and vanish, leaving a mess that looks too simple to carry the library at 8. Solving where the information goes is not a side hobby for black hole fans. It is a stress test for reality's bookkeeping. Hold the stress test in your hands like an object. On one side, Einstein's geometry, tested by light bending, clocks, gravitational waves, black hole shadows. On the other, quantum rules, tested by atoms, chips, entanglement experiments, chemistry. Both sides win everywhere else we can check. Black hole evaporation is where we cannot check easily, and where the rulebooks seem to insult each other. Insults between successful theories are how revolutions start. That is why the opening said solving this could rewrite space, time, and reality. Not hype, structural pressure. What does it mean to say information can never be destroyed? In quantum language, it points at unitarity. The idea that the full state of a closed system evolves in a way that keeps distinctions intact. Different inputs stay distinguishable in principle, even if scrambled beyond recognition. Burn a book in a sealed room and the smoke, ash, and heat still encode in insanely scrambled form. What burn? Black holes seem to threaten a burn where the smoke forgets the book. That threat is why people lose sleep. Scrambled is allowed, lost is not. According to quantum rules as usually taught, the paradox is not that information becomes hard to read. The paradox is that the outside world might lose even the hard-to-read version. Hard to read can still be physics. Impossible to recover even in principle is a different kind of ending. Which ending does a black hole enforce? Sit with the faller for one careful beat without turning this into a full falling documentary. Locally, crossing a large enough horizon can feel ordinary at first. No brick wall required by classical geometry. The global ledger, meanwhile, screams about what the outside can ever know. Local calm and global panic can coexist in the same event. That coexistence is part of why the paradox feels personal. Your atoms could cross, while the universe argues about whether it will ever remember you completely. From the ship, the freeze and fade story tempts a soft escape. Maybe nothing ever truly crosses infinite time as seen from outside, so maybe nothing is lost. That escape fails under pressure. Astrophysically, matter falls in, holes grow, mergers ring. The outside world changes as mass is added. Treating the freeze as proof that information never enters is a coordinate comfort, not a solution. The paradox survives the comfort. Jacob Bekenstein in the early 1970s pushed another crack into classical intuition by linking black hole area to entropy, a measure of missing information or hidden degrees of freedom. Larger horizon area, larger entropy budget. That idea helped to make black holes look like thermodynamic objects, not just geometric drains. Hammer-dynamics plus Hawking radiation turned horizons into engines of questions. If a hole has entropy, what microstates is it counting? If it radiates, what carries those counts out? Entropy talk matters because it reframes the paradox. It is not only about a missing diary, it is about whether the number of ways a black hole can be, microscopically, matches what quantum gravity must eventually explain. Area laws hint that the counting might live on surfaces in shocking ways. That hint later feeds holographic ideas. For now, keep it as pressure. Black holes behave as if they have a hidden library whose size scales with area, while no-hair slang says the cover only shows 3 numbers. So where could the information go? The opening already named the leading camps without crowning a king. Encoded on the horizon surface, released slowly in Hawking radiation with subtle correlations, emergent elsewhere in spacetime through radical mechanism. Arc Camp tries to save quantum bookkeeping without pretending the horizon is a normal door. Arc Camp pays a price in weirdness. Weirdness is not optional here. Optional would mean one of the two great theories was casually wrong about something small. The clash is not small. Start with surface encoding. Some physicists argue the information is secretly written on the event horizon, not as ink you could photograph with a tourist camera, but as structure in the quantum state associated with the surface. The outside world never needs the interior diary if the surface already holds the distinctions. This family of ideas rhymes with holographic thinking. Maybe the amount of information that fits in a region is bounded by area, not volume. And black holes are the extreme teachers of that lesson. Surface storage changes the emotional meaning of crossing. The faller still falls. The diary's ledger may never have needed to travel with them as a volume suitcase. If the surface already knew, crossing is not smuggling truth into a basement. Crossing is matter following geometry, while the account books sit where exterior physics can, in principle, touch them. That picture is strange. Strange is allowed. Strange that saves unitarity is more welcome than familiar deletion. Holographic hints belong here as a named corridor, not as a full later video. At SCFT and related programs suggest in special spacetimes that a gravity theory inside can match a quantum theory without gravity on a boundary. Black hole information fights helped motivate taking surface storage serious. Serious does not mean settled for our exact universe. It means the surface camp is not a random tweet. It is tied to a research program that reshaped high-energy theory. If the information lives on the surface, what does the faller experience? That question births complementarity ideas associated with Leonard Susskind and others. Roughly, the outside account and the inside account can both be valid in their domains, but naively splicing them into one story creates contradiction. The ship has one description, the faller has another. Demanding a single film reel that shows both completely at once may be the mistake. Complementary descriptions replace the demand for one fused movie. Complementarity sounds like a peace treaty. Treaties get stress-tested. In the early 2010s, a sharp challenge, often nicknamed the firewall argument, linked to work by Alhiri, Marolf, Polkinski, Sully, and the debate around them, asked whether saving quantum rules and Hawking-like radiation forces drama at the horizon itself. If certain assumptions hold together, an infaller might not find a calm classical crossing. They might find a wall of violent possibility, horrified people who love the equivalence principle's gentle local story. Firewall is not consensus-backed. It is a reductio pressure. It says, pick your poison carefully. Keep gentle crossing. Keep thermal radiation simplicity. Keep quantum purity. And watch the combination threaten to snap. Something in the assumption list may have to give. Hitch assumption D's is the ongoing war. The paradox lives in that war, not in a single slogan. Now, the radiation camp. Maybe information is not trapped forever on a surface or lost inside. Maybe it leaks out gradually in Hawking radiation, not in the first crude thermal approximation, but in subtle correlations across the radiation over long times. Early quanta look random. Later quanta, carefully compared with early ones, might restore distinguishability. The hole's life becomes a long scramble and reveal rather than a clean erase. Scramble and reveal needs patience measured in cosmic absurdity for big holes, and it needs physics that the first Hawking pass did not include. People sometimes hear radiation camp and think the glow obviously carries a message like a radio. It does not look like that. It looks like heat. The claim is that heat's hidden relationships are the message. Hidden relationships are hard to love and harder to calculate. Hard is not the same as false. That story needs a conceptual beat often associated with Don Page. There should be a turn in how much information is recoverable from the radiation as evaporation proceeds. A curve in principle, not a number on a thumbnail. Early on, radiation looks nearly featureless. Later, if unitarity holds, the radiation must become capable of carrying the distinction. The exact timing and mechanism remain battlegrounds. The shape of the hope is clear. Hermel was the approximation. Correlations are the suspected missing ink. Hawking himself spent years associated with the claim that information is lost, then later shifted public stance toward information preservation in ways that made headline. The human plot twist matters less than the physics plot twist. The field moved from casual acceptance of loss toward intense effort to save quantum bookkeeping. Loss is no longer the comfortable default. Preservation is the demand looking for a mechanism. Vertical camps go further. Maybe information emerges in another region of space-time. Wormhole-like connections, baby universes, or dual descriptions where interior and exterior are linked in ways classical cartoons forbid. Some modern slogans pair entanglement with geometric connection. Treat those as speculative corridors on the same spine. Not as proven tourists, they try to answer where the information goes. When simple pictures fail, they also risk sounding like magic. If you skip the ledger problem that motivated them, here does that leave the Fowler crossing now? Locally, for a huge hole, classical general relativity still suggests a calm horizon crossing. Globally, quantum debates may rewrite what calm means. You can fall while the theory community argues about whether your details are on the surface, in the radiation, in a dual description, or in a firewall you have not yet hit. Lived experience and global bookkeeping again refuse to be the same genre of story. That refusal is the paradox's personality. What is proven? Horizons as one-way membranes in classical relativity are as secure as the theory that passes every large-scale test we throw. Black holes as real astrophysical objects are secure by orbits, waves, shadow, thermodynamic analogies, and Hawking radiation as theoretical structures are deeply developed. Direct detection of Hawking radiation from stellar or supermassive holes is not how we currently watch the sky. The effect is tiny for large holes. The paradox is therefore not an experimental photograph. It is an inconsistency pressure inside our best frameworks. What is argument? Almost every proposed resolution, surface encoding details, radiation correlations, soft hair ideas that horizons remember more than old no-hair slang, allowed late proposals tied to symmetries and memory at null infinity, firewalls, wormhole slogans. Is a research program with equations, objections, and unfinished homework. Honesty means naming them as proposals, not as trophies. What waits on quantum gravity? The full merger of quantum rules with space-time geometry in regimes where both matter at once. Black hole interiors and evaporating endpoints are exactly where that merger is needed. Until it arrives, the paradox remains a flashlight pointing at the missing theory. Flashlights are useful even when they do not finish the map. Soft hair deserves its own quiet corridor. Old no-hair talk said mass, charge, spin. Newer work argues horizons and the space-time around them can carry additional soft degrees of freedom. Subtle memories imprinted by what fell. If those memories correlate with outgoing radiation, information may have more luggage racks than the three-number slogan suggested. Soft does not mean unimportant. Soft means easy to miss if you only stare at hard charges. Complementarity deserves a second concrete beat. Imagine two descriptions of a burnt book. A description tracks ash chemistry. Another tracks the original text before the burn. You do not need a single photograph that shows ash and intact text in the same place at the same time. You need rules for which description answers which question. Black hole complementarity tries something analogous for inside and outside. Critics ask whether the analogy survives when radiation, cloning worries, and horizon drama enter. The debate is the point. Cloning worries appear when naive splicing threatens to let the same quantum information exist in two places. It should not. Quantum rules limit copying. If the interior still holds a qubit, and the exterior radiation also holds it too simply, trouble follows. Resolutions try to prevent illegal cloning by restricting who can compare which description. That is technical. The spoken core is simpler. You cannot casually paste inside and outside diaries into one scrapbook without breaking quantum law. Does reality survive after crossing the event horizon? The title question now has teeth. Reality as lived local physics may continue for the Fowler. Reality as a complete recoverable record for the outside universe is exactly what the paradox contests. Survive can mean two different things: local continuation, global remembrance. The paradox is the fear that global remembrance fails. The hope of modern work is that global remembrance somehow succeeds without making local physics absurd. Say the two survivals out loud until they stop blurring. Survival A: you cross and still have moments of experience before tides or drama end you. Survival B: The universe's final account still knows, in principle, every distinction that made you you. Halloween stories sell survival A failing at a wall. The information paradox sells fear about survival B failing even if survival A looks calm. Idle literacy is keeping A and B apart. Sagittarius A star and the imaged shadows do not solve the paradox. They prove horizons are not chalk fantasies. Real horizons make the bookkeeping question urgent rather than decorative. Cartoon drawing can lose information and nobody cares. Real engine at the galactic center that might erase distinctions forever would mean nature has a shredder our quantum rules forbid. Urgency follows from reality. Stand outside that galactic engine in the thought experiment and send 2 probes with different internal patterns, but identical total mass, charge, and spin budget. Classically, the whole can end looking the same. Quantum fear asks whether the eventual radiation can still tell the probes apart. If it cannot, survival B failed for those patterns. If it can, the patterns lived in the ledger. That twin probe picture is the paradox stripped of poetry. Billions of years appear in the opening because evaporation talk for large holes lives on absurd timescales. That timescale is why the paradox can feel philosophical to the public and technical to theorists at once. You will not watch a supermassive hole finish evaporating. You can still ask whether the final accounting would obey quantum law. Thought experiments at cosmic timescales are allowed when the clash is sharp enough. Absurd timescales also protect you from fake urgency scams. Nobody is saying your memories will evaporate next year into Hawking mist. They are saying the principles that govern the mist contradict the principles that govern gravity's laws. Principle clashes are allowed to use eternal time. Eternal time does not make the clash less real, it makes it cleaner. No engineering shortcut, only theory. Another region of space-time as a destination for information is the most science fiction-sounding camp in the opening. Keep it tethered. It is motivated by trying to keep quantum purity while refusing simple radiation or surface stories. It is not a tourist brochure for escaping into a nicer universe. It is a placeholder family for mechanisms where interior degrees of freedom are not where classical drawings put them. Placeholder families need future equations. They do not get to crown themselves today. Elsewhere can mean dual descriptions rather than literal portals you could fly. Duality language says, 2 mathematical worlds describe one physics. Information that looks trapped in one description may be ordinary in the other. That is radical and precise when done with equation. It becomes mush when translated as your atoms pop out in a sister cosmos for free. Keep the radical, reject the mush. Nobody knows. That sentence from the opening is not a shrug. It is the status report. Consensus does not exist. On the mechanism, consensus does exist. That the clash is serious. Serious clash plus no consensus is the definition of a living foundational problem. Living problems are why this topic can hold attention without fake certainty. Before you leave the camps, feel how the opening already ordered them as questions rather than trophies, encoded on the surface. Where? Released through Hawking radiation. How? If the first calculation looked featureless, emergent in another region of spacetime, meaning what without magic? Those 3 doors from the opening are the whole middle of this night. Everything else is walking into each door far enough to see the furniture and the traps. Surface encoding furniture includes area laws and holographic bounds. The trap is mistaking a bound for a photograph of ink on the horizon. Released in radiation furniture includes page-like hopes and correlation programs. The trap is thinking thermal glow already proved emptiness. Another region furniture includes dualities and radical connectivity ideas. The trap is tourism, walk doors, avoid traps. That is the discipline. Hawking radiation itself needs one more concrete picture without becoming the full-fade video. Near the horizon, the vacuum of quantum fields is subtle. Modes that look empty to a free-falling observer can look populated to a distant observer. That mismatch seeds particle creation in the calculation. Energy accounting then ties the outgoing glow to a slow loss of the hole's mass. The simplest spectrum looks like a warm body with a temperature set by the hole's size. Colder for giants, hotter for tiny abstractions. Featureless warmth is the first draft. The paradox asks whether the final draft still looks featureless when the whole is gone. If the final draft stays featureless, many different initial libraries map to the same kind of ash. Mapping many to one is how information dees. If the final draft differs for different libraries through correlations, living information can still be unreadable to any civilization that ever exists. Unreadable is not the same as non-existent. The quantum demand is existence in the mathematical ledger, not convenience for historians. Convenience for historians is what burned books on Earth still almost offer. In principle, with perfect measurement of every ash mote, black hole ash, if truly thermal and complete, offers less than that principle. That is the scandal. Earth burns scramble. Horizon burns. In the scary story, delete. Scramble versus delete is the entire emotional engine of the paradox. Delete would mean quantum physics breaks, exactly as the opening wand. Break here does not mean a phone app crashes. It means the rule that evolution keeps distinctions would fail at nature's most extreme edge. Physicists hate that failure mode because quantum theory works too well elsewhere to casually amputate. Hat is not proof. Hat is why so much effort goes into saving the rule with weird mechanisms instead of surrendering it. If quantum physics does not break, here does that information go. Back to the three doors. Surface radiation. Elsewhere, soft hair can be heard as a refinement of surface or near horizon memory. Complementarity can be heard as a rule about who is allowed to check which door at once. High walls can be heard as a threat that saving quantum rules hurts the faller. Islands and replica wormhole. Calculations can be heard as recent attempts to make radiation's page-like behavior fall out of gravity math in controlled settings. Furniture multiplies. The house is still the same question. Recent progress deserves hope without coronation. When calculations recover a page-like turn, entropy of radiation rising then falling, many researchers read that as evidence that unitarity can be compatible with evaporating holes in those models. Compatible in a model is not the same as photographed in the Milky Way. Till the burden shifts, loss looks less like the grown-up default. Preservation looks like the thing gravity must learn to do. What the faller should take from that shift is modest. Modest means do not expect a certificate that your crossing will be gentle and that your details will be publicly readable later. Expect a field that increasingly bets your details are not deleted, while still arguing about whether gentleness survives the bet. Bets and arguments are the honest weather. Fake certainty is the dishonest weather. Return to the vessel and the fading probe one more time. The ship's instruments lose the carrier signal into redshift. The probe's clocks do not ask the ship's permission to continue. Somewhere in a theorist's notebook, Hawking modes are drawn leaving toward infinity. Somewhere else, a horizon is drawn as a screen that already knew. Somewhere else, a firewall is drawn as a refusal of calm. Sam, dark object, competing notebook. Your job is not to pick a notebook from a thumbnail. Your job is to feel why every notebook is fighting over the same missing ink. Missing ink is information. Information is distinction. Distinctions are what make one reality different from another. If black holes can delete distinctions from the cosmic ledger, then reality after the horizon is thinner than quantum physics allow. If they cannot, then reality after the horizon is scrambled, delayed, dual, soft-haired, or otherwise weird, but not gone. Thinner versus weird is the choice the paradox offers. Either choice is casual. Solving the black hole information paradox would not just explain black holes. It could completely rewrite our understanding of space, time, and reality itself. That line from the opening now has a body. Rewrite space, because interiors and boundaries may not mean what drawings taught. Rewrite time, because evaporation and recovery scramble naive chronologies of when information is where. Rewrite reality, because the ledger of what exists may be more surface-like, more entangled, more dual than furniture in a room intuition allows. The prize matches the pain. Ask again, slower. What if nothing in the universe is ever truly lost? Not even inside a black hole. The first half sounds like comfort. The second half makes comfort expensive. Expensive comfort is still worth wanting. if quantum rules are right. Expensive comfort is a lie if loss is fundamental. Wanting to know which is why anyone stares at this paradox past the first minute. Ask again with the collision. If black holes erase information, quantum physics breaks. If they do not, where does it go? Surface, radiation, elsewhere, soft memory, complementary books, horizon drama, or a theory not yet named. The opening listed the doors. The night walked them, the ending refuses to lock them. Refusal is honesty. Walk the spine. Once in plain language, classical relativity plus horizons plus nowhere suggests details vanish behind three numbers. Quantum physics demands details survive in the final ledger. Hawking radiation turns the demand into a crisis by offering an apparent featureless exhaust. Proposals try surface encoding, correlated radiation, soft memory, complementary descriptions, radical space-time links, or horizon drama. None are crowned. The faller may still cross calmly in classical approximation, while the global ledger scream. Reality as remembrance is the open wound. What if nothing in the universe is ever truly lost, not even inside a black hole? You have seen why the question is not poetry. It is a demand aimed at the darkest engines we know. It sounds impossible because crossing feels like forever gone. Surprisingly, that forever gone is exactly where modern physics starts arguing with itself. If black holes erase information, quantum physics breaks. If they do not, here does that information go, encoded on the surface, released in subtle radiation, hidden in soft hair, split across complementary stories, thrown into stranger space-time links, or waiting on a theory we do not have. The truth is, nobody knows. That unknown is not empty. It is crowded with the next revolution in how we understand reality. The last image. Book falls across the horizon. From the ship, it fades. From the book, the fall continues. Somewhere, surface, radiation, soft memory. Elsewhere, the universe either keeps every distinction that made the book itself, or it does not. Which way nature chooses will tell us whether reality is a perfect ledger or a shredder wearing Einstein's geometry. Carry that choice as an open door. Before the door closes, stay on the ledger a little longer. Ask what would count as a satisfying ending for this fight. A satisfying ending is not a slogan. It is a mechanism that keeps quantum distinctions alive in the final outside state. That does not invent illegal cloning. That explains why Hawking's first spectrum looked thermal, and that says something coherent about what the faller meets at the horizon. Any proposal missing one of those pieces is still unfinished homework. Unfinished homework is allowed to be exciting. Exciting does not mean finished. The opening told the truth early. Nobody knows. The middle showed why not knowing is crowded rather than empty. Crowded with surface programs, radiation programs, soft hair, complementarity, firewalls, dualities, and calculations that recover page-like turns in controlled models. Crowded is the honest mood of a foundational crisis. Foundational crises rewrite textbooks when they resolve. This one sits at the seam of geometry and quantum rules. Seams are where new cloth gets woven. If the seam says information lives on surfaces, classrooms will teach space differently. If the seam says radiation carries scrambled libraries across cosmic time, evaporation becomes a message channel instead of a shredder. If the seam says interiors are dual to boundaries, drawings of insides will come with disclaimers. If the seam says firewalls, falling stories change overnight. Falling stories already taught dual seats in an earlier night of this series. A night borrows that bridge once and refuses to reopen it as a full film. The bridge exists, so you feel why outside remembrance and inside continuation can argue. The argument is the paradox. Remembrance is the wounded word. Continuation may still happen while remembrance fails, or both may be saved by a stranger bookkeeping. Stranger bookkeeping is what quantum gravity is for. Quantum gravity is not a brand. It is the name for the missing consistent marriage. String frameworks, loop approaches, holography programs, and others offer partial weddings in special venues. Black hole information is where guests ask whether the marriage can survive a horizon. Guests are loud because the venue matters. Our galaxy hosts real horizons. Real venues make abstract weddings urgent. Urgent still is not the same as experimentally settled tomorrow. You will not decode Hawking correlations from Sagittarius A star with a backyard dish. You can still let the paradox change what you think a horizon is. Horizons stop being only one-way doors in a horror movie. They become candidate screens, candidate memory banks, candidate battlefields for quantum consistency. Candidate is the adult word. Certainty remains for sale only to liars. Liars would crown a camp tonight. This night refuses the crown. It keeps the three doors from the opening open. Surface, radiation, elsewhere. It adds soft hair as finer furniture near the surface door. It adds complementarity as a traffic rule between doors. It adds firewalls as a warning sign. It adds recent page-like recoveries as hope without coronation. Hope plus refusal to coronate is how you stay on Einstein's and quantum theory's side at once. While they fight, language can sound unserious. It is not. Serious papers still disagree. Serious conferences still argue. Serious calculations still assume different exit. Disagreement at that level is a signal of depth, not of failure. Failure would be pretending the clash was solved by a metaphor. Metaphors help speech. Mechanisms settle physics. Mechanisms must eventually say, what happens to a clean qubit that falls in? Toy models exist for a reason. If a single bit's fate cannot be told consistently, a library's fate cannot either. Bits scale into books. Books scale into world. The paradox scales with them without changing shape. Shape stays. Distinctions in. What distinctions out? Distinctions out might be delayed beyond any practical recovery and still count as preserved. Preservation is about principle, not about your calendar. That distinction matters for emotional honesty. People hear information is preserved and imagine a future telescope reading last week's probe. Principle does not owe that telescope. Principle owes a mathematical ledger that did not delete the probe's pattern. Calendars and ledgers are different gods. Different gods bring us back to the opening's last promise. Solving this would rewrite space, time, and reality. Space, if degrees of freedom are real. Time, if recovery and evaporation scramble naive before and after stories of where information sits. Reality, if what exists depends on entangled descriptions rather than solitary furniture in a volume. The promise was not hype. It was a map of the prize behind the fight. Map of the prize in one last plain path. What if nothing is ever truly lost? Even inside a black hole, relativity says the fall continues past the horizon toward the singularity. Quantum physics says information must survive. Collision, erasure, breaks quantum rules. Survival demands aware. Surface, Hawking radiation over long ages. Radical, elsewhere. Nobody knows which where is right. The answer will not only describe holes, it will describe how reality keeps score. Keep score. That is the phrase to carry out of the ship. Black holes force the universe to show whether it keeps score perfectly or shreds the scoreboard when gravity gets extreme. Perfect scorekeeping is the quantum demand. Apparent shredding is the classical plus Hawking scare. Between demand and scare lies the greatest mystery the opening named. And the reason this question can hold you after the glass goes dark. Return once more to Einstein's side of the collision without reopening finished rooms. Anything that crosses continues falling toward the singularity. In the classical picture, continues is doing heavy work. Continues means the horizon is not a brick that stops you for the faller's clocks. Continues also means the interior problem does not vanish just because the outside loses sight. Interiors are where classical geometry eventually breaks at singularities. Quantum gravity is also summoned there. The information paradox is cousins with the singularity problem, even when this night refuses to become a full singularity tour. Cousins matter because both problems say the same quiet thing. Our drawings are incomplete at the extreme. Incomplete drawings that still work in the solar system can fail at horizons and cores. Failure modes are where new physics hides. The information fight is one failure mode made sharp by quantum bookkeeping. Sharp failure modes are gifts. Soft failure modes can be ignored for centuries. Ignored for centuries is roughly how classical no-hair comfort lived before Hawking radiation made endings matter. Permanent holes can hide. Evaporating holes must settle accounts. Settling accounts is why mid-1970s work changed the emotional temperature of the field. Temperature is also literal in Hawking's formula family, holes as warm objects. But the emotional temperature is the paradox itself. People who loved both relativity and quantum theory suddenly had to admit the marriage needed counseling. Counseling produced decades of proposals. You have walked the main wings, surface encoding, radiation with correlations, soft hair, complementarity, firewalls. Radical elsewhere, recent model calculations that recover page-like behavior. Arc-wing has papers, counterpapers, and unfinished staircases. Staircases are fine. Claiming the roof is finished is not. Not finishing the roof keeps the opening honest. The truth is, nobody knows. Nobody knows is compatible with enormous progress. Progress can map the shape of allowed exits without picking the exit. Mapping exits is how a field prepares for the missing theory. Preparation is less glamorous than revelation and more useful than fake revelation. Fake revelation would be telling you the information definitely sits as readable code on the horizon like a QR stencil. Readable to whom? With what measurement? On what timescale? Popular pictures that skip those questions become comic. Comics can inspire. Comics cannot settle unitarity. This night tried to keep inspiration without the comic's false clarity. False clarity also threatens the radical elsewhere camp. Elsewhere can mean dual descriptions already present in holography, not a literal holiday to another cosmos. Elsewhere can mean connections that make interior degrees of freedom non-local in ways cartoons forbid. Elsewhere can mean baby universe scenarios that move the ledger off our asymptotic stage. Those are different elsewheres. Lumping them into one sci-fi door is useful for an opening and dangerous for a conclusion. The opening earned the right to group them. The close should ungroup them enough to stay honest. Honest close still returns to the collision. If black holes erase information, quantum physics breaks. If they do not, where does it go? You now have a richer menu of wares and a clearer sense of costs. Cost of erasure. Break quantum law. Cost of surface storage. Rethink interiors and access. Cost of radiation recovery. Find the correlations and explain early thermality. Cost of soft hair. Show transfer into outside observables. Cost of complementarity. Police illegal comparison. Cost of firewalls. Hurt the faller. Cost of radical links. Rebuild locality into wish. Pick a cost. And you are doing research. Pretend there is no cost. And you are doing marketing. Marketing is what the paradox does not need. It already has all. Nothing truly lost. Even inside a black hole. Is an off sentence. Forever gone. Right is the trapdoor. Greatest mystery begins. Is the turn. Einstein versus quantum. Is the engine. Here does it go. Is the hunger. Nobody knows. Is the honesty. Rewrite reality. Is the prize. That sequence was the opening. The body only refused to betray it. Refuse betrayal one more way. Do not stack a Penrose power plant chapter here. Do not stack a full holography course. Do not stack a full evaporation fate film. Those are other nights. This night is remembrance versus shredding at the horizon. Linear means the wound stays the wound until the end. The wound in one plane test. Two twins fall in. Different patterns. Whole evaporates in a thought experiment over absurd time. Does the final radiation plus whatever still allow, in principle, telling the twins apart? If no, information died and quantum rules took a hit. If yes, information lived, and we must say how. How is surface, radiation, soft memory, dual description, or something not yet named? Named options are maps. Maps are not the territory. Territory waits on quantum gravity. Quantum gravity waiting is not an excuse to stop caring. Waiting is a reason to care louder. The flashlight metaphor return. The paradox shines on the missing marriage. Every serious attempt to resolve it is an attempt to glimpse the marriage. Glimpse language beats claim language until the vows are written. Vows would sound something like this. Someday. Here is how distinctions that cross a horizon reappear in outside observables. Here is why the first Hawking spectrum looked thermal. Here is what the faller experiences. consistently. Here is why cloning never happens, when those vows exist in a controlled theory that also limits to Einstein where it should. The paradox ends as a solved chapter. Until then, it remains what the opening called it. One of the greatest mysteries in modern physics. Greatest is earned by stakes, not by volume of blog posts. Stakes are the operating system of reality. Whether the universe is a perfect ledger. Ledgers are boring until something threatens to shred them. Black holes threaten. Quantum theory forbids the shredder. That forbid is the mystery's heartbeat. Heartbeat last image. Again, simpler. Book falls. Ship loses the light. Faller keeps falling. Ledger somewhere either keeps the book or loses it forever. Forever is the word quantum theory hates. Hates forever loss. Allows forever scramble. Forever scramble versus forever loss is the whole night in 4 words twice. Carry both pairs. What if nothing in the universe is ever truly lost, not even inside a black hole? After this walk, the sentence should feel heavier than a poster. Heavier because you felt Einstein's continue. Heavier because you felt quantum survive. Heavier because you felt Hawking's warm threat. Heavier because you walked doors without crowning a king. Heavier because nobody knows, and that unknown could rewrite space, time, and reality itself. There is still one practical way to lock the night in place. Tomorrow, when someone says nothing escapes a black hole, answer in 2 beats. First beat, from behind the horizon, outward escape fails. That part stands. Second beat, whether the universe keeps a perfect record of what crossed, is an open war between Einstein's geometry and quantum bookkeeping, sharpened by Hawking radiation. 2 beats prevent both overclaim and underclaim. Overclaim would be saying we already know the information is safe on the surface like a sticker. Underclaim would be saying the paradox is only philosophy with no teeth. Teeth show up whenever you try to write a complete history of an evaporating whole. Complete histories need initial state, horizon dynamics, radiation, and final state. Final state is where unitarity grades the homework. Pass means distinctions survive. Fail means they do not. Most proposed resolutions are attempts to write a passing final state without ripping local physics apart. Attempts multiply because ripping local physics is expensive, and deleting quantum purity is also expensive. Expense on both sides is why the war lasts long enough to outlive slogans. Logans said information is lost. Logans said information is saved on the hologram. Slogans said the firewall kills the faller. Slogans said wormholes fix everything. Logans are seeds. Seeds are not forests. Forests are calculations, consistency checks, and limits to known physics. This night used slogans only as door labels, then walked far enough inside to see unfinished rooms. Unfinished rooms include how exactly early radiation looks thermal, while late radiation carries the key. Unfinished rooms include how surface degrees of freedom map to everyday notions of location. Unfinished rooms include whether soft hair transfers cleanly into measurable outside data. Unfinished rooms include how complementarity avoids becoming a verbal shield that hides contradiction. Unfinished rooms include whether firewall energy is real, illusory, or a sign. The assumption list was wrong. Unfinished is the correct wallpaper. Wallpaper does not mean empty. Empty would be a shrug with no doors. You were given doors from the first minute, encoded on the surface, released through Hawking radiation over billions of years, emergent in another region of space-time. Those were not decoration, they were the syllabus. The syllabus ends without a final exam score, because nature has not handed in the answer key. Not handing in the key is allowed. Pretending you graded the exam yourself is not. Not grading yourself is the last discipline. It matches the openings nobody knows. It matches the middle's proposal. It matches the close's open door. With the book still falling. The book is still falling in the image because the paradox is not a museum plaque. It is an active argument about what reality is allowed to forget. Forgetting is the crime quantum theory wants to ban. Horizons are the suspect. Hawking glow is the evidence that looks too clean. Clean evidence can be incomplete evidence. Incomplete is where hope lives. Hope. Disciplined. Hope that unitarity win. Hope that gentle crossing can be reconciled. Hope that holography-like ideas point at real structure in our cosmos, not only in toy universes. Hope that someday a theory writes the vows listed earlier. Disciplined hope does not skip the costs. Costs keep hope from becoming a cult. Cults crown kings early. Physics crowns mechanisms late. Late crowning is why you can leave tonight without a winner and still leave with more than you brought. You brought the childhood forever gone. You leave with forever gone as a maybe that fights quantum law. Fighting quantum law is a big claim. Big claims need big mysteries. This is one. It begins exactly where the opening said it begins. At the place where gone forever stops being obvious and starts being the greatest argument in modern physics about whether reality keeps score. Stand at the glass one final, quiet minute without inventing a new camp. The dark still looks like a grave. The ledger behind the dark now looks contested. Contested graves are more interesting than simple graves. Interesting is not the same as solved. Solved can wait. Contested is enough to change how you hear the phrase event horizon for the rest of your life. Event horizon used to mean only a one-way membrane. After tonight, it still means that. And also, a place where quantum bookkeeping may be forced to speak. Speaking may happen as surface structure, as correlated glow across ages, as soft memory, as dual description, or as drama that hurts the faller. Speaking may wait for a theory, not yet written. Waiting does not silence the demand. The demand is older than the proposals. Nothing in the microscopic rules wants true loss. True loss versus true scramble. Repeat it until it sticks. Scramble can look like loss to any practical eye and still obey quantum law. True loss would mean the final outside state forgot which twin fell in. Forgetting twins is the crime. Black holes are the accused. The trial is unfinished. You are not the judge. You are the witness who finally understood the charge, understood enough to feel the opening again without it sounding like a trailer. What if nothing in the universe is ever truly lost? Not even inside a black hole. It sounds impossible, because once something crosses the event horizon, it is gone forever, right? Surprisingly, that is where one of the greatest mysteries in modern physics begin. Now, you know why the surprise earned its place. The collision is real. The doors are real. The nobody knows is real. The possible rewrite of reality is real as a stake. Carry the stake. Leave the crown off. According to Einstein, the fall continues. According to quantum physics, the pattern should survive. According to Hawking's first blow, the exhaust looks too simple. According to a generation of proposals, simplicity may be a mask. According to the sky, horizons are real. According to honesty, the verdict is not in. That stack of accordings is the paradox without poetry. Poetry can wait. The stack is enough to haunt. Haunt is useful. Let it follow you into the next black hole picture, the next casual forever gone. The next claim that quantum rules are optional at the edge. Optional is the lie. Extreme is the test. Tests are why mysteries this large deserve a long look and still refuse a tidy bow. No tidy bow, an open door. A falling book, a ledger that may or may not shred. That is the end that matches the beginning. And if the charge still rings in your head, true loss versus true scramble, good, let it ring beside every horizon image and every easy forever gone. The universe may keep score perfectly. The universe may only seem to shred. Each one is true will rewrite more than black holes. Until the verdict arrives, the mystery the opening named remains exactly what it claimed to be. One of the greatest in modern physics, waiting at the edge where gone forever stops being simple. One last practical filter for the wild. When a video says, black holes destroy information, ask which claim it makes. Claim 1, no postcard returns from behind the horizon. Claim 2, the final quantum account deletes distinction. Claim 1 is standard geometry. Claim 2 is the paradox. Mixing them creates fake certainty. Separating them is the skill this knight installs. Install it beside the other black hole knights without stacking them. Falling teaches dual seats. Penrose teaches spin as battery. This teaches remembrance as open war. 3 knives. Samey dark family. Different wounds. A knight's wound stays remembrance. Remembrance stays contested. Contested stays honest. Honest enough to end where the opening ended. Solving the black hole information paradox would not just explain black holes, it could completely rewrite our understanding of space, time, and reality itself. That rewrite is still potential. Potential is not nothing. Potential is why the door stays open while the book keeps falling, and the ledger stays on trial. When someone asks whether reality survives after crossing the event horizon, answer with the twin meaning. Local continuation may still happen. Local remembrance is the open war. War between Einstein's continue and quantum survive, sharpened by a glow that looked too clean. Clean may be a mask. Mask or shredder. That choice still owns the dark. Thank you very much for watching.